Beginning.
Okay, you're good.
All right. Hey, welcome back, fellow TFFL owners, to your weekly TFFL webcast. It's Thursday, October 8th, 2020. This year just keeps getting weirder and weirder day by day. We are looking back at week 4 TFFL action, looking ahead to week 5. We are quickly getting into the heart of the season. Let me do our abbreviated panel intros here. Berto is out, I think, having a nice dinner out for the first time in a while. Hopefully he may join us later. Hank is taking a little bit of a break, but we appreciate him as our IT director setting us up. So it's a 3-person panel. Our commissioner, king and ruler of the lizards, Richard, how are you?
I am wonderful, thank you. Good evening to all.
Good evening. What are we drinking tonight?
You guys made the choice.
Yep.
It was Rocktown, Arkansas whiskey bourbon. Arkansas bourbon whiskey. That's it. Yeah, very tasty, a little smoky.
Whiskey, Arkansas.
And Chief, skipper of the Sponge Fishermen, welcome.
Hi, thanks. Good to be here. Hopefully we can pick up some of the slack that Phil or Berto would usually provide. I generally don't have a problem talking too much. So let's do this.
And a chance to make up ground in the trivia standings, as long as we can make sure the points get recorded.
Are we chasing Berto?
I believe weren't Phil and Berto top 2?
They're in the lead. They are in the lead.
All right.
I'm in third. And John, I think, was given a bunch of the guest points too, because he missed a few or something like that. So,
all right, well,
behind us.
I'll miss a few again, but
before we get to trivia, let me just start to rattle off some week by week headlines here, because some significant stuff is happening. The Amsterdam Packers, still our only unbeaten team here, 4-0. If my math is correct, they're averaging 94 points a game or so. Really strong team right now. K-Wheels, unfortunately, and this is why Hank is taking a break, our only winless team at 0-4. So the K-Wheels already 4 games back in the division. And just as the AMPAC are getting 94 points a game, the K-Wheels are giving up 97 points a game. Nothing they can do about that, of course. But yeah, that's just incredible. And the Lizards responsible for a lot of that. 121 points, Rich. Big effort out of the Lizards in week 4.
Yeah, that deserves a drink right there.
There you go. Another big headline in week 4, an epic quarterback switcheroo failure by the Slippery Beavers. It's a shame Hank isn't here, because I think he wished this exact thing on the Beavers. I hope he had trouble all season long, flipping back and forth between Ryan and Rogers. And I didn't see this, but they did this 10 minutes before
yeah, he made a little announcement, right, John? What were you gonna say?
Oh, on the chat?
Yeah, I don't know. I missed it.
Yeah, I don't know. Either he texted me or he popped it up on the chat. One way or the other, it wasn't like right before, but it was a bit before. He just decided to make the change after he realized that Jones and Ridley were going to play, and Adams was out, right? And yeah, there's a philosophy: you don't bench Aaron Rodgers. And others don't follow those philosophies, but
and we don't need to discuss this too much. It's Bill has already admitted what happened here and told us why he did it. I don't argue with his reasoning. Ryan had his receivers, Rodgers didn't, and so
starting Ryan again this week. Unless he's changed it.
I'd like to point out. Right above me here, if you're above me.
I saw that.
Nice.
So, we won't belabor this too much, but we will acknowledge it. And let me get the specifics out there. Matt Ryan, 4 points in week 4. Aaron Rodgers on the bench, 31 points. Beavers only lost by 4. That cost them the game. yeah, I'm kind of guessing Rodgers will be in there going forward. But
well, I don't know about that. I think he still might play a matchup. But
He's
I mean, if
Ryan,
he's done it this far, I don't think this is like a lesson learned. I think that he made a decision, and we've all been there. We've all made a bad decision, and sometimes it is a last minute thing you just go with.
Yeah, maybe we are going to talk about this a little longer. Then Rodgers has the potential. He's certainly done it more than once before to be, in one of those quarterback grooves where you just keep him in your lineup. He's going to get you at a minimum 3 touchdowns every week. He's going to, I've read, I think it was Barnwell today talking about LaFleur as coach of the year. They're doing this without Adams playing, as Chief knows. They are just in a groove with that offense right now. And we know what Aaron Rodgers is capable of. I think at this point you ride him.
Boy, and Ronald Jones just ripped off a huge run. So
he sure did.
Worse for Hank. Ronald Jones looks like a stud this year. What's funny about Matt Ryan? Maybe I don't know. I think it's funny. If you bring us back to the keeper list and draft 2019, right? The Impact let go their longtime quarterback, Russell Wilson, in order to keep Matt Ryan. And what happened? 6 weeks later or so, he had to make a trade to bring Wilson back and kept him this year over Ryan. So, Matt Ryan, is just a big tease for us in recent years. I still think he's a good quarterback. He's got staggering numbers at the end of the year, but it seems like game to game is just he's not carrying a team the way you would hope he would.
Yeah, 0-4, what, 3-1 or 4-0? I don't even know what Green Bay is, but you see an offense on fire, a team certainly that puts up points over here, but they're 0-4. They were 0-3 going into the game. And like you said, Stick, Rodgers been on fire. And I think he's felt like he had something to prove after they drafted a quarterback.
Yeah.
The one question you ask yourself is, we all know Bill took Ryan early in the draft, and we've discussed that on in prior webcasts. And does he feel a little onus because he took him early in the draft that he has to compete with him? That could be part of it.
Yeah. We've seen Ralph do that with Josh Gordon in years past. Sure. You spend the first round pick on a guy. I think you're doing it expecting to play him, not just to make him your backup. And
they're both talented guys. It's a tough one.
And in all fairness, Rodgers didn't look great the last 2 years. And he was benched at points last year for Jimmy Garoppolo, for Sam Darnold on a couple matchups.
Yep.
It did look like he was starting the decline phase of his career. So we'll see. We'll see what happens when the colder weather starts and he starts feeling those hits a little bit more and the cumulative effect. But so far, he looks great.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, and again, I don't know. Forgive me. The Packers are unbeaten right now. Yes.
Yes.
They were 13-3 last year. LaFleur knows what he's doing. And again, look at what's going on with their receivers. Lazard is out. Adams has been out.
I know. And that's why. Yeah, that's why he made part of why he made the decision, right? So,
second
guys, he's one of those quarterbacks like Brady too. That doesn't matter. You're a good receiver, can run around. I'll get you the ball.
Yep. Second year in that offense, that tends to be when offenses find their groove. And I think, Rich, you're right. I think Rodgers is a little pissed. And I think at least for now, you stick with Rodgers and see, how long this run goes. Anyway, let's move on. Let's get you guys a trivia question to start with. Rich, again, the Lizards, 121 points here in week 4.
Woo woo.
This is a question updated. The archives have not been fully updated, but I have gone all the way up through 2019, and in fact, through 4 weeks of 2020 to get this question up to date.
All right.
How many other times in TFFL history have teams hit 120 points or more?
Ooh, 120 or more.
You're at 121.
Yeah, so there's at least one.
How exclusive is the 120 plus club?
We're talking regular season and playoffs, obviously.
Yes.
And it's 100, including 120?
Including 120.
Okay.
And I'll give you a hint for what it's worth. There is one team that once had 120 on the nose. They are part of this count.
Okay.
Usual rules apply if you can nail the number. I know this is kind of a guessing game. I'll give you 3 points. I'll tell you what, if you can get within one of the number, I'll give you 2 points. A little extra for but a great game, Rich. 121 points. Again, just to acknowledge this for the record, 44 out of Dak Prescott on 502 passing yards.
And he lost the game.
Yeah. Two different 2-point conversions in the mix there, 4 touchdowns. He's speaking of guys in a groove, at least fantasy-wise. Joe Mixon, 28 points. Odell Beckham had a crazy game with 50-yard rushing touchdown, 26 total points for Beckham. And that was, really, Mike Evans had a nice 13-point game. But it was really, those 3 guys.
They were the top quarterback,
Yep.
running back, and wide receiver of the week for the NFL.
98.
My team. It was like hitting, the 777s.
98 points among those 3 right there practically gets you to 100, and then everybody else chips in to get you to 121. All right, so I'll get you an answer later in the show telling you how many teams are in that exclusive 120-point club.
All right, I got my number.
And I can also tell you it is a 120-point club. No team has ever hit 130. But
129 was the record, right?
129 is the record, yep. All right. Rich, Commissioner's Corner. A lot of news continuing to break on the COVID front.
Yeah.
Just tell us where we are in our thinking. Any other reminders, musings, news, and notes you want to share?
No, I covered most of it in the commissioner report this week, so I think most people are up to speed. But a few more injuries occurred this week, so teams are hurting. Although I think the waiver wire for the TFFL was a little less active than I would have expected it.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted D'Ernest, and D'Ernest went to a priority pick. So outside of that, just you needed a kicker. It was loose change this week. So that was that. And we have another week of COVID going on, whereas from the standpoint of a couple of teams, one is the same team, the Tennessee Titans. They seem to have the biggest issue in the NFL right now, so up to like 23 players. And they're supposed to play my Buffalo Bills, so that has pushed that game to Tuesday right now, and they make that decision based on a new case being identified today, which means we may be figuring out their formula after 2 weeks. So little inside, logic tip here. But if they're basically saying if the last Patriots test happened yesterday and they push that game to Monday, and the one happened today with the Bills and they push that to Tuesday, well, now we know they're basically out Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're marking it 4 days, right? And so if it goes another day, you wonder, do they push it to Wednesday? And does that, is that the cutoff? And then they have to work out something in a bye. We're going to find out, right? What I'd say overall, just wrapping up the little commissioner's gig, is that everyone did a great job adjusting to what we had to relative to dealing with how the games were changing. I think that we might see some real struggles ahead week-wise. If you have buys coupled with COVID issues, it could cause quite a bit of interesting weeks for us. We might find some of the most interesting players in the NFL starting games. So we'll have to see how that works out. All in all, good week, some good games, and we have some fun ahead.
So let me ask a selfish question that might also benefit other owners out there who are still learning the ropes of these provisional picks. We have 2 games that have been delayed, including New England, Denver, correct?
That's right.
I've got Melvin Gordon, for instance, in my starting lineup playing for Denver. Should I be submitting a provisional COVID starter who, if Melvin Gordon's game ends up getting canceled, would become a starter for me?
That is correct.
Okay, good.
So if you have a player on either one of the 4 teams that have been moved out, which is New England, Denver, Tennessee, and Buffalo, right? Ironically, the Steelers were impacted last week.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all 3 of our favorite teams, ironically. So if you have a player available in reserve, you must choose and use that player first as your reserve. So, John, why don't you provide your example to the audience for what you submitted?
But right. So, as Rich was just saying, I would like to start Damian Harris against Denver, my running back 3 slot. However, if that game gets moved at some point, cancels for week 5, that I've provisionally started Keyshawn Vaughn tonight. Doesn't look like he's got scoring points for me, but that's besides the point. And so he would get bumped into the starters role. So I had Keyshawn Vaughn, and I had Matt Breida and Chris Thompson. So I had 3 possibilities for that spot. And so that's what I chose. Now we have that with Cam Newton, but we also have the additional thing that Cam Newton himself is on the COVID list.
That's
so
right.
Even if the game gets played, unless he's cleared to play, and again, he needs, as my understanding, he needs 2 negative tests 24 hours apart. The game being pushed back to Monday actually helps him in that case, gives him another day to pass the test. But if he doesn't, he's still on the COVID list. Matt Stafford's on bye this week, so I do not have another quarterback on my roster. And so then I would use a provisional pick for Newton based on his personal status, not so much his team status.
That's right.
But in that case, it would be a provisional pick off of my roster. It would be from the free agent pool.
That's right.
And is there a deadline for making provisional starting designations and provisional pick requests?
Yeah, essentially, all of them should be in by Sunday morning at 11 o'clock. That's what I was trying to push to 11:30. I'm trying to give as much time as possible relative to when a change may need to take place. So, there's flexibility there. And it's not difficult to make the updates or the changes. And so I just want to remind people, as John pointed out, in one case, he's able to use a reserve player that he has on his bench. In another case, no one's available in reserve, so he's going to put in a provisional pick. And you submit that to our FA and IR email address that everyone knows. And from there, based on the order of this week's FA priority pick path, that's how those picks will be awarded to the teams. So, if John was to select a quarterback right now, I believe in the case of this week, there's nobody else who could possibly need a quarterback. So he's likely to get whoever he chooses off the FA pool. However, if somebody else did and had an earlier FA pick than John, then they would get the player if they were asking for the same one, just like normal FA and priority picks work. And so as soon as I get those, they will get updated in the essential document, which everyone can view. So it'll be available, and I've created a new tab called the COVID-19 Reserve Backup tab.
Now, here's something, Rich.
Yes,
now,
sir.
as I understand it, as the rule is written, okay, written might be as it's been
Tight.
It was typed. It was emailed.
of course. Okay. Someone I'll pick up a quarterback, just in case Newton can't go. Let's say it's Ryan Fitzpatrick. And Newton doesn't play. He doesn't come off the COVID list. So Ryan Fitzpatrick starts for me.
Yeah.
Now, as the way I read it, I have Ryan Fitzpatrick until Cam Newton gets off the COVID list. Or do I drop him because Stafford comes off the bye and therefore is my actual quarterback?
Yeah, so I should put a provision in to make it clear to everyone that the intent is when the week is over, all of the picks go back. There's no keeping anybody. There's no potential advantage to keeping a guy for multiple weeks. If your guy's out, you have to make a new selection the next week. It starts over on reset every week.
So let's say Stafford didn't have a bye. Let's say he was out 3 weeks with broken ribs or something.
You still get put back. You can't keep
put back in and out. So that's not bad because I would be able to play matchups a little better that way.
Oh yeah, you're basically streaming a quarterback in that situation.
Right.
Well, I
think
think
like the idea if it's a 1 week
you're
cycle.
still rolling the dice that somebody else isn't going to get the one you want, but
sure.
I would say, now I'm going to sound like Thornburg, but in the scenario you described, I would say once Stafford's out for a few weeks, and then you go use a regular free agent pick.
Right. That's what you should do. That's exactly right.
Absolutely right. So I guess it wouldn't come up in that case, unless he was on COVID for a long period of time.
Unless the way that could come up is that you make your free agent pick on Thursday, and during practice on Friday, the guy gets injured, and you have to make another one.
So I just realized, for instance, Rich, I've got as my only defense Buffalo. I should probably make a provisional defensive signing.
You absolutely should.
For what that's going to be worth. Okay.
Yeah, so a reminder to everyone. We get. I mean, it was good we covered this topic a little bit because there is some nuance here.
Yeah.
And so I encourage everyone, take a look at your rosters and your lineups, and make sure you don't require a priority. A COVID pick.
Yes, we
got a pick for the week.
2 games, 4 NFL teams. There's a lot of potential out there.
Yeah. Plus the buys. As you mentioned, I mean, you got 4 teams plus the buys.
Yep. Rich, if I may, on behalf of the league, I've been so impressed that you are doing a lot to keep up with all these moves. A lot of manual updates, a lot of processing of free agent requests multiple times a week now. Well done, and thank you very much.
My pleasure.
You've explained it well along the way. No question. Well, we've asked our questions. We've gotten good answers.
Excellent.
We have very good hands here.
What's that?
So we're in very good hands right now, this league.
Excellent. I tremendously appreciate your kind sentiments. And I guess I've been waiting 25 years or so to take on this role. The time has come. And I'm happy I could be of service to the league.
As I think I told you in an email at one point, fate has called you to serve the league in these challenging times. You had no idea what you were stepping into, but well done.
And ironically, the one thing I'll say is that I think, amazingly enough, the whole idea that I'm not traveling and I'm not able to drive to work and be in the car and on the road and doing all that stuff allows for me to have a little more time to ensure that we can run this operation well. And it's been a joy so far. I don't like being home and I don't like the whole COVID situation, but it is what it is and we roll with it. And if anything, that's what makes the TFFL even more valuable during these times. Talking with friends like you, watching Hank sulk on the couch, and us talking to a bunch of our friends out there and communicating and getting the rivalry going every week.
And honestly, we shouldn't celebrate too soon. I know Hank would very much agree with this. If 2020 has taught us anything, Rich, it's only going to get worse. So, and it will in the case if we lose even a couple more games here to get pushed, the NFL runs out of its wiggle room very quick, and I think there will be some messes for fantasy owners that the NFL doesn't give a shit about, but they'll get their games in.
Yeah, exactly. They'll do what they got to do. It's up to us to adjust to it.
Yep. All right, so we don't have Phil here this week to give us our standings. Chief, did you happen to put together a standings update for us?
No, but I have them in a different window here.
How about just quick
You
look.
grab the window. I'm going to let my dog out real quick.
All right.
While you report the standings. I'll be right back.
How are the division races? We're almost a third.
I think that's the way, I kind of framed it. And we're too early in the season to talk about, trying to do the division races versus the wild card races and the eliminated from postseason. Really, the only person who wouldn't feel like they had a reasonable shot would probably be Hank, and that's probably based more on his injury situation than necessarily starting 0-4. Right? If he was 0-4 but scoring 80 points a game and just had bad luck, then okay, maybe 0-4, you can turn that around. But everybody else, 1-3, you're still very much alive. So we have a long way to go. We have buys to navigate. We have injuries to navigate. So talking about divisions, I'm just going to start as it appears on my screen. So SoCo West is on top. Senators and Sponge are tied record-wise. Senators have the advantage on the points scored, and they've been playing better. They've had no really throwaway games. They did lose head-to-head Sponge week 1, but that was a Sponge high water mark, with Senators been getting better and better. Ham's down at 1-3. Again, Mahomes gives them a puncher's chance every game. But I think really the Senators should be considered the favorite in this division. And I'll be honest with you, I have them number 2 behind Ralph. If we're looking at the entire league, top to bottom, I think Senators are probably your second best team right now. So moving down to the NoCo East, shows up next here. We talked about the Packers. We talked about their averaging, 96 or whatever that is points a game. They're good. They've been good for several years now. They're not, they're there's no reason to expect them to be worse than good. It's hard to see, barring some catastrophe, them missing the playoffs. We've talked about the K-Wheels at the other extremes. We won't talk about that anymore. So in between, we have the Giant Killers at 2-2. He's a perfectly cromulent team, right? He's an average in the points scored. He's a 500 record. He could make the playoffs. He could not. He's going to be one of those 5 to 8 to 8-5 kinds of teams. Who hopefully beats the right teams to get in the playoffs. Going down, NoCo West, which we have 2 panelists on tonight. Lizards leading that division at 3-1. His numbers look good as far as points go, especially after last week. Aliens at 2-2. You can probably just say the same things about him I just said about the Giant Killers. Boba Fett's going down at 1-3, bring up the rear. Scored more points than the Aliens by about 26. So they've got a little bit bad scheduling luck. I think you can correct me. They're 0-2 in the division, which could hurt down the road if it comes to tiebreakers. But again, we're probably
Pretty
3
early.
games too early to start talking about that. SoCo East. I did not know this. Devils and Mongols are tied at 2-2. The Beavers down at 1-3, and I think this pretty much goes against everything we thought was going to happen in this division. The Beavers coming off a undefeated season and a Pac Bowl appearance. They started off well this season. I think they got 90-something their week 1 win, and they've dropped 3 since then. We'll see how they're going to do this week. They happen to have the Sponge Fishermen this week. Again, 1-3 on a team. You look at the lineup and you say, hey, this is a fairly good team. Le'Veon Bell coming back, bad offense, whatever. Again, if they started the right quarterback, they'd probably be 3-1 right now. But that's what happens. So, I think they should feel pretty good about their chances. But again, you feel good that 4-0 is making the playoffs and 0-4 is not. And I think everything else is pretty well equally likely.
If I may, the issue I think with the K-Wheels is not so much the injuries. Obviously, losing Barkley and Sutton hurts. They still have a good team. They're, as I said, favored, I think, by 18 over the Aliens this week. They can still field
K-Wheels.
They can still field a strong lineup. They should beat the Aliens this week.
No Buffalo, no Tennessee. We're in trouble.
The issue for the K-Wheels in terms of their playoff outlook is the fact that they have to overtake the Amsterdam Packers for that division title. They're already 4 games back of a team averaging 94 points a week. The K-Wheels are not going to win that division title. Now you're asking them for a wild card berth to, climb over, 8 other teams. It's a lot of work to imagine them making the playoffs in the hole that they are in right now.
And they've had bad luck, but scheduling luck, not injury luck. Their teams are dropping points on them in bunches, which sucks. But they're still scoring, in the 50s and 60s a game. It's not like they're losing scoring in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this team.
Oh, their team, even without guys hurt, is putting up good points.
Yeah, but they're good points. But again, maybe they could beat a third of the teams in the league any given week. They should have a win or two. But I think that right now is the ceiling for this team, is a middle of the road team. And as Stick just said, if you're a middle of the road team already 4 games back, it's kind of very, very hard to claw back into there, especially when you don't really want to trade anything to pick up pieces to help you this year. So what you have is what you have, maybe even less. Again, Hank knows. We're not telling him anything he doesn't know.
All right. So this makes for a nice segue. Let's move into our roundtable chat. My first topic, we'll see if Hank is really listening and paying attention. But one of the prevailing themes among those of us at the Algonquian cottages for draft weekend was all the therapy that we're all in. And I won't divulge any secrets, but people very, very freely talking about how they were improving themselves through therapy. Good for everybody. And so we're going to do a little therapy here for Hank.
Rock on.
Who, as you can tell, is despondent over his K-Wheels, and again has had terrible injury luck and terrible scheduling luck, and just so early in the season finds himself in a bad hole. So he's in, as I said in my agenda, some one of those stages of fantasy grief. I don't know all the stages of grief very well. Is this the pouting stage, perhaps?
I don't know. Well, first of all, I'm not sure what all the stages are. So, there's probably a beginning where you're just like questioning or in disillusionment, like it's sort of like what like you're just confused. How could this be?
Nightmare? Right.
I think it's anger.
And then, I think it gets there. I think it's there, but I don't think that's where it starts. I don't think it starts there. We might be pissed about a game or two at the beginning that, all right, I got this, so you can come back, right? And then the injury hits, and that's when it's like, there's nothing I can do here. It's like your arms are thrown up, and you're just like, oh, geez. and then you're like, all right, well, maybe I'll get lucky here, and I can turn this around. Even though my ace running back is now gone for the season, I got to make something of it. So let's see what we can do. And then you go, boom, another hit, and then somebody's scoring on you harder, another hit, and then you're just like, all right, there's really nothing I can do. I'm either jinxed or this just sucks, and the schedule sucks, and the world is against me. And now you're beyond disillusionment. You're getting actively angry about it, and unfair. You're feeling like the world is just unfair. And then you get to the point where, do I even give a shit about this stuff? Like why do I even care? Right?
I know he is. I don't know if he's still in that stage, but I know he definitely has been at that particular stage. And I've been there before. I don't care. Why do I punish myself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do it for the glory that you can come back and get. Because I mean, look, you'll have to look this up. Maybe it's a future trivia question, but what is the team that's gone the worst 0-6, and still came back to make the playoffs, sort of thing, right? Like what team ended up, having the worst possible record but turning it around to make the playoffs in that season? What I can tell Phil is I have been like 0-8 or more, so I know the feeling, and I've lost guys like Terrell Davis and Dominic Davis, and all kinds of weird stuff happened, and we've been there. And then I've also come back and won a Pac Bowl in 2016. So,
I mean, it's just even weird stuff for the case. Like Derrick Henry, may end up missing multiple games in a row here
because of COVID.
Deshaun Watson, the star quarterback for the K-Wheels, this may turn out to be a blessing for him. The fact that he's just lost his coach, but this is. Am I correct that that's a winless Texans team now? Kind of a rudderless Texans team. Maybe that's again a way for Watson to kind of get a spark here, but he may just be adrift this year. So how do you work your way through? I mean, you get pissed, but at some point you have to kind of accept it and start thinking 2021, don't you?
I'll tell you this. I'm sorry, I'm trying to open a bottle of wine here, and the cork is falling apart on me. I did make the playoffs.
We don't have any rules against alcohol on TV here, John. You can do it on TV. It's okay.
Yeah, but I don't want to get the cork all over the couch.
Okay. We don't want that either.
So I did make the playoffs at 1-5.
See, there you go. There you go. You gave away a trivia answer, possibly, but that's all right.
I mean, my memory might not be as sharp as I'd like to say, but I think I made it. And, it was a realization. It's like, I'm 1-5, but I've played the class of the league already. And, and I've got a few head-to-head games against people ahead of me.
Right.
So it's one of those things that you said, if everything breaks right, I could get that wild card berth. And I did. So it happens.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Hank's in a tough division right now. Right. It would probably be easier for someone like the Beavers to say, and no offense to the Devils or the Mongols, but they don't scare you. Despite the fact Josh Allen did scare me last week. But as a team, it's okay. Well, they're ahead of me, but I got a game head-to-head against each of them. Right. I've already, if you've already played the tough teams in the league, then they're out of the way. And if you're scoring and losing, that's unfortunate. But
well, that's just it.
I think the first stage of grief is denial. Now I remember my.
There you go. There you go. Great.
They won't.
Disillusionment, denial. That's where I was.
Denial, then
no way this could be happening.
Anger, then fear, then bargaining, then acceptance. Or denial, fear, then anger.
All right, Yoda.
So
no hate. No hate. Anger leads to hate. Don't get there, Hank. Don't get to hate.
You got to really look at the positive. And you say, you know what? I had a good team last year, right? He put up a monster game in the playoffs and got beat by an otherworldly performance by Jameis Winston. He had a good team this year. He had a good draft this year. He's going to have a very high pick next year. So I think you just got to say, you know what? It's not going to happen for me this year. I'm not going to get mad about it. And we can distinguish between getting mad and getting angry and frustrated or whatever. But I'm not going to get truly angry about it. I'm going to put myself in position to have the best keeper list I can heading into 2021, adding a let's say top 3 pick. If you play your cards right, the top pick. And let's face it, most years of the draft, there's really only one guy you would say that's a sure thing in the draft this year, right? There's only one Zeke Elliott, a Saquon Barkley, or Jacobs. This year, I don't know if there's any sure thing. Oh, I guess Edwards-Helaire is a pretty sure thing too, if he gets that usage. So that's what you got to take joy in. You got to say, you know what? You rat the string, find something else, and just put yourself into the best position you can, for next year, adding that another piece, and you can't have worse luck. And listen, the Hams, and this goes back maybe 15 years now. The Hams got the number 1 pick one year, leading the league in scoring, or something like really absurd like that. Top 3 in the league in scoring, and just everything bad. He must have had the second highest score like 8 times, and played the highest score. Added number 1 pick to a packed bowl caliber roster. So these things happen. They happen.
That's fantasy football, baby.
Last year, Beavers drafted number 1. Sponge drafted number 2.
Yeah. I mean, just look at what New Orleans went home on to get to a game within the Super Bowl last year. It's real football, right? Shit happens.
No, and Chief, you nailed it. I whenever Phil gets to the point, maybe, who knows, maybe he can have a massive comeback. He is not out of it quite yet. But if this team ends up looking ahead to 2021, I just took a glance at it. I think you look at 10 potential keepers right now. You're talking about leaving behind. I'm telling you, Cortland Sutton probably is not a keeper.
Right.
In the quality of this team. Robert Woods would not be a keeper. Darren Waller would not be a keeper. Baker Mayfield would not be a keeper. This is a good team going forward that then, would get a nice early pick on top of things. And maybe be able to trade some of those guys for more draft picks. And
you can do there.
Yeah,
but again, he may be counting himself out. I don't think he's out. He gets a win out of you this week. All 1-4.
I know.
A few more. Maybe he makes a couple of trades, and maybe some things happen to the AMPAC or the Killers, and there's a lot could happen.
Hey, listen, I told him, I'm a 2-2 team coming off a 94 point performance last week, facing an 0-4 team. I should, in theory, be feeling like, wow, great opportunity to get a winning record, get up to 3-2. He is favored big and has a better starting lineup than the Aliens do. He can very quickly get to 1-4, and just I hate to use the cliche, but you take it one game at a time, and at 1-4, he might be just a game out of a wild card spot at that point. There's a lot of teams he's going to have to jump over here down the stretch, but not out of it yet.
Definitely not.
All right.
For them, and I wish them good luck.
I of course. So I'm going to skip over my next topic here because we're already at 43 minutes. Let me wrap this up. I got a couple shorter topics to talk about. Want to talk about young quarterbacks. I was looking at the schedule, and I know we'll get to that in a moment. But take a look at that Senators Steel City Mongols game. I thought the quarterback matchup there is really interesting. You've got
Josh Allen.
You got 2 great young quarterbacks there, Josh Allen for the Mongols, Kyler Murray for the Senators. But the paths those 2 teams took to get to those quarterbacks quite different. The Senators trading for Kyler Murray, the Mongols kind of holding on to Josh Allen against a lot of people saying he's not a keeper, myself included, showing faith in Josh Allen.
I believed.
And gosh,
I am a Bills fan, so.
They are both paying off big.
Yeah, big time.
I don't really have a question there other than to compliment both of them on finding their stud young quarterback. And you can see, I've talked about this for years. To me, as much as it's important to have running backs in the TFFL, it all starts at the top of the lineup with a great quarterback. Chief hinted at it with mentioning Jameis Winston. Not a great quarterback by any means, but had great fantasy numbers last year and carried the sponge down the stretch. So, the Mongols 2-2 right now with Josh Allen, and Senators 3-1 with their new quarterback Kyler Murray at the top.
I think it's quite remarkable relative to how you arrive at your quarterbacks, and in these cases, a couple of different paths there. But you're right. Having a great quarterback at the top of your lineup is an important asset these days. As the game has changed over the years, you're talking 10, 15 years ago, it's probably not quite as important as it is today with the way some of these quarterbacks can put up numbers week to week. Especially when you have a player like, you heard Chief just say it, he was worried about Josh Allen. Why? Because he's not just scoring, that he's throwing darts and more accurate after 3 years of play and growing, and getting these passing touchdowns. You think he's like 16 touchdowns and 1 interception or something. But he runs, and he's the best goal line back they got. And, when you put all that together, and you got guys like Murray and Jackson and Mahomes and Dak, and these guys run it in, they throw it in, they're great on the move. Look, could Baker Mayfield be making a turn? Maybe. We'll see. But, even how I got to my quarterback was a little odd. Is Allen the next quarterback in the AFC that we're looking at the next Tom Brady of the AFC? Maybe. We'll see. Some people are saying things like that. I won't quite crown him anywhere near that at this stage. But
not saying
that said, he's a good player, and he's gotten a lot better than most people thought he was going to get. So we'll see. Yeah, look, last year, you just got to point out one last bit there, which is John streamed a quarterback to the Pac Bowl last year. And that, so as much as it's awesome to have a killer quarterback and feel good about that, you can also win streaming a quarterback.
And
and
why did I stream a quarterback? Because Andrew Luck retired before the season,
right.
So I had that position nailed down.
You didn't have a choice.
I had a great prospect in Mayfield behind him. As soon as I traded Mayfield, Luck retires, and I've gone from being set at the position to have a big hole there.
Yep.
Now there's a perfect example of a guy who might have needed a little therapy at that time, right?
Yep.
Relative to and look what happened. Great example.
And I do have to just plant the seed. Whatever happens if Drew Brees gets injured, Jameis Winston is set up to post big numbers for Sean Payton down there in New Orleans. Winston, at some point in his NFL future, will be a fantasy factor again.
I agree. As soon as they put an end to this Taysom Hill nonsense.
Yeah. All right. So one other quick roundtable topic, and then we'll look at our schedule and get a trivia answer. But I did just want to sort of come back to the COVID topic a little bit. And one of the things that has occurred to me, there's a couple issues going on with the bye weeks. It's not just all these provisional picks and provisional starts we're having to make. Some of these games being rescheduled in the NFL is resetting some of the advantages or disadvantages some of us had in terms of who we were facing, for instance. And there's not a big question here, but I'll just point out, for instance, I think Lamar Jackson's bye week, Baltimore's bye week was week 8. That is now moved up to week 7, I believe, in adjusting things with the Steelers. So the Aliens, at one point, I was looking forward to facing the Devils, I think, without Lamar Jackson, and that that's not happening. But I haven't dived into there may be something else that's benefiting the Aliens. This is going to change, I think, throughout the season. Any advantages and disadvantages you scouted out as you looked at the schedule are just getting blown to bits.
I bet.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I don't look at the schedule. to see.
Oh, I always do that. Do I get the hams when Patrick Mahomes is on a bye?
Yeah, I'm with John. I have no freaking idea. I had no idea I was going to be playing the Packers this week. I mean, literally, I wrote the commissioner's report, and I took a look, and I was like, oh, look at that. I had no idea. Rock and roll.
All right. So, hey, let me give you a trivia answer, and then you almost kind of segued us right into the schedule there. We got some big games this week we're going to talk about.
Right on.
But how exclusive is that 120-point club? The answer is in between those numbers. Rich, you were the 10th.
10th
team.
3 off.
There you go. And there, yeah, as I said, there's one team at 120 points. So you're the second lowest among those 10 at 121. 129 remains the record at the top of that list. But you have now rounded out the top 10.
Rock and roll.
I'm shocked there was that many.
Yeah, I
think
tried
the second was 126. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's 2 126s, no?
Well, okay, I'll rattle these off real quick. Amsterdam Packers have the all-time record, 129 points.
Which Berto pointed out was in a Pack Bowl, no?
In the Pack Bowl against the Aliens.
Wow.
The Amsterdam Packers have the second best, 127 in 2007, in Week 12, 2007. Now, the Sponge Fishermen are tied for third with 126. They got 3 home field advantage points in a playoff game, so actually they put 129 themselves on the board that day.
Oh, wow.
But only scored 126 of them.
Right.
The K-Wheels also with 126, tied for third. Amsterdam Packers in fifth with 124. So 3 of the top 5 belong to the AmPack. Dirt Devils, 123 in sixth. Amsterdam Packers, again, 122. Lizards, 121. Dirt Devils are the team that scored 120. And I missed one that's not in the document in front of me. The Boba Fats had 127, actually. So they're all the way up there tied for second.
Was that 11 or still 10?
It's still 10. It's still 10 total. As I was going down the list, I didn't put the Fats in the proper place there.
Is that a recent one?
Yeah, that was a more recent one.
So that would mean this was the Lizards' highest scoring game ever.
That is correct. That is correct.
I'm going to take another drink to that. Cheers, 2020. One good thing happened.
So just to round out the record keeping here, that is your high score all time, beating your previous high of 116, scored all the way back in 1998.
Wow, and I won the Pack Bowl that year.
There you go.
That was the Steve Young, Emmett Smith, Jerry Rice team.
Terrell Davis,
Terrell Davis,
yeah.
Robert Smith, right? Robert, is that right?
Robert Edwards.
No, did I have Robert Edwards that year? Rod Smith, Denver. Rod Smith.
You did have the ill-fated Robert Edwards.
Yes, I did.
At some point.
Yeah, I him.
Yeah,
Dominic
he was already
Davis.
done by then.
Oh, it was so depressing. Freaking sand volleyball. Oh.
I don't mean.
That's watching your number one pick go down the drain. Your first round pick go down the drain multiple years in a row. I had that happen. It was set me back so.
All right, so let's see if we can wrap up here in under an hour. We have 6 minutes to go. Let's talk about our schedule this week with a big game of the week to talk about.
Yeah, so we at the top of the matchups, I think the 4-0 Amsterdam Packers playing the Lizards is the game of the week. You got Prescott and Wilson at the top of the lineups. I think Ralph is favored quite a bit, and the Lizards were psyched that Mike Evans, after coming off that ankle injury that he seemed to have on Sunday, was even playing tonight, yet much less score a touchdown. So I think we're already on a good pace, but hey, it's going to be a tough battle for the Lizards this week. You got the Senators playing the Mongols, the 3-1, 2-2 game. That's another really good one, and the Mongols are already off to a good start with Sukup putting up 13 and Robinson with 4, with still time to go. So that looks good, but the Senators are also favored by quite a bit, almost by similar margins. Do you have something you want to say there? All right. Next up, I'm just reading across here. You know, the K-Wheels Aliens, as you pointed out, Stick. You know, while you're 2-2 and he's 0-4, he's favored by almost 15 points, 13 points, somewhere in that neighborhood. Could be a really good game. You got Cousins this weekend, at least for the moment, against Deshaun Watson at the top of the lineup. So that ought to be exciting. You're going to have to make a decision on a provisional defense, as you called out, for the Bills. But this game looks, you know, a lot can happen here. I mean, Latavius Murray was huge for you last week. Coming out of nowhere, he outscored Kamara, right? So maybe you get another game like that. And, you know, Phil had a surprise last week with Gibson putting up 2 touchdowns in the first half. It had me worried out of the gate. So, you know, lots can happen in some good matchups here. The Hams versus the Devils. This looks pretty even. Could end up being quite a really good matchup. They're within less than a point. They're about 1 point, maybe 1.2 on the spread here. You got Lamar Jackson going against Patrick Mahomes. That's some excitement in my book. Both of them have some decent running backs and good receivers. Yeah, this could be this might be the backup game of the week right here, just based on you know, having Mahomes and Jackson. That is, of course, if Mahomes ends up playing. I think KC also, you know, could have anything pop up in a day. So we'll see relative to their situation. Right. And then we also have the the Giant Killers and the Boba Fatts, 2-2 going against 1-3. The Fats seem to have had some bad luck, and this is a lot like your game, Stick, but in reverse. Whereas Berto is not favored, and the Fats, who are 1-3, are favored by a good 20 points, 22 points over the Giant Killers. Now, the Giant Killers did make a priority pick this week and got Ernest Johnson, who is not in the lineup yet, so that might change things a little bit. But you got Burrow versus Goff. It ought to be exciting. And winding out the week, you got the Sponge up against the Beavers. The Sponge already got a touchdown on the board from Montgomery. He's going to have to make a provisional pick with, as mentioned earlier in the webcast, around Cam Newton and Stafford situation. And right now, the Beavers have to roll this week with Matt Ryan because Aaron Rodgers is on a bye. So there's no tough decision for the Beavers. They're heavily favored at the moment by almost 20 points, 21. And we'll see how this one rolls as well. So that's it. That wraps up your week. Looking forward to it. And we'll see how things roll. What's that, John?
That's also a Packed Bowl rematch.
Ah, there you go. Packed Bowl rematch. Didn't even catch that. From last year. What was the final of that game? Was it close?
Yeah, it came down to Monday night. It came down to Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams making up 15 points on Aaron Rodgers.
Beautiful.
Never happen again.
Beautiful. Classic. I love it. I love it. So that's the week in the TFFL. Hopefully, you know, we don't end up with any more COVID issues. You know, I think I saw a quote earlier this week. It was from, you know, Baker Mayfield. He was like, you know, basically, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Just wear the fucking mask so we can play. Come on. Do the right thing. That's basically what he was saying.
Man, Nick Foles just sucks.
He goes in spurts, dude. He looks like a Hall of Famer one moment, and the next moment he looks like a rookie that just came out. It's
19. He threw a shitty pass and got bailed out on a phantom roughing the quarterback.
He's a rich man's Mike Glennon.
Do you think the Eagles wish they still had
horrible
calls?
penalty call.
What do you think?
I'm sorry, the rich man who's?
Do you
Mike,
think the Eagles wish they had him? That was a really, really bad penalty because that was a fair hit.
That wasn't late. It didn't hit him in the head.
No, that was just a flat out good NFL tackle.
Hey, so one TFFL note this week as we talk about the game of the week, Lizards Ampac. Rich, you went out and acquired Justin Jackson to fill in, I guess, to some extent for injured Austin Eckler. But Jackson's not in your lineup this week. What are your expectations for what you're hoping for from him? Do you expect him to see a lot of touches?
Well, I do. Jackson started the season injured, and Kelly has had a little bit of a fumble issue going on a couple of games. So I think you might see a little more 50-50 split. And I think that while Eckler is out over the next 4 to 6 weeks, it was good to hear the team was not going to put him on IR. They were contemplating it. And so hopefully Eckler is back sooner than later. But not having a backup for Eckler, Jackson, meaning a direct backup, like with Mixon, I have Giovanni Bernard on my team, so I have the direct. But this made a lot of sense for me in terms of the acquisition because I think Justin Jackson, one, is a young, talented player who could even get traded next year to another team. We'll see. And he was injured at the beginning, so I wasn't thinking that I was too worried about the early performance of what has gone on. And I believe he'll end up splitting carries with Kelly and possibly even outperforming him in a couple of weeks. So we'll see how it rolls. The other really nice thing is if you look at the schedule, the Chargers have a decent schedule against the run coming up. So my hope is that I can slot him in a few times over the next few weeks. But again, I may have to actually end up with him this week. We'll see. I mean, it'll be between him and Hines as my backup potentially for White, who is my Patriot that now is going to be playing Monday night. So I myself have to potentially consider that or take White out altogether and maybe play Jackson. But I'm excited about it. Welcome to the Lizards, Justin Jackson.
We had another trade too, didn't we, this week? With Jimmy Garoppolo going from the Fats to the Hams? I don't know if
that is true. That is true.
I think it merits a big discussion, but the Hams were which been talked about how they came out of the draft with one quarterback, and so now they got themselves a second. So.
Good for them. Yep.
Yeah, and then I think they had passed over, if I'm not mistaken, it was a
kicker, right?
Bailey, right? I think it was Bailey who they got.
Yeah, the Fats now have 3 kickers, I believe.
Yeah, what was that all about?
I don't remember.
Do not know. We'll have to ask him one of these days.
We'll see what happens.
I thought the price tag on Justin Jackson was cheap enough that he may end up being a real bargain potentially.
Possibly.
And maybe the K Wheels are starting to look ahead a little bit. Every draft pick they can collect helps.
Sure.
So well done, guys.
Thank you. I think from that aspect, it was negligible. It wasn't going to hurt to get rid of him, and it was an easy move, relative to the value on his team anyway at the stage of the game. So, yeah, he gets a jump up 4 spots, right? That's pretty darn good, and 5 to 8, 3 spots, 4 spots, not bad.
Yeah, and I agree with Stick. I think that was a good cost to pay for Jackson. Meanwhile, I think the Garoppolo trade was like a 10th for a 12th or something absurdly low like that.
It was like a 13th for a. I can tell you. Hang on. I have it right here. It was a 10th for a 13th.
And
a kicker.
And the kicker. I don't know.
When you already had 2.
Yeah. I mean, you're giving up Garoppolo, so I mean, there's some value.
And they've also have the rookie from San Diego, Justin Herbert. So I guess Garoppolo becomes expendable then.
Oh, I think he's totally expendable after seeing what Hervé is.
it seems like it's worth the insurance for a 13 to a 10 jump.
Oh yeah. Well,
Anyway.
Garoppolo's a good player. I got no
Anyway,
problem
good,
with
great trade for the Hams.
All right, so let's wrap up. We're at a little over an hour. Hopefully, Hank is listening off in another room and can come in and turn us off in a moment.
We had
here.
a great game coming in here. If you want to watch the last 2.5 minutes.
Yep.
that. 17.
Yeah. Good luck to everybody in week 5. Yeah, I've said this before. As we wrap up this webcast, we often say, "What a big week!" It's every week is big. We only play 13 of these games every year.
Quarter of the season gone.
One game is the difference between making the playoffs or missing the playoffs for a lot of teams. Every week is a big week. But we're kind of getting into the heart of the season now. We will start seeing some teams making decisions about how serious they can pursue a playoff spot this year. Good luck to everybody in week 5. Good luck to the NFL cleaning up the little COVID messes it has right now. And as always, everybody stay healthy out there. Get your flu shots.
Got mine.
And vote.
Vote. Get your flu shot. Be well. Be safe.
Stay and stay healthy, everybody. We'll see you guys back next week. Hopefully, both with Berto and with Hank as he moves forward in the grief process, and beating the aliens may help in week 5. We'll see.
Hank, get us out of here.
All right, good night, guys. Take care.
Ride till Hank shuts us off.
And maybe.